Steven Levy, the author of In the Plex. Steven, you end the book without ending. You say that we're still at really the beginning of the Google story.
Well, Google's still operating, I think, so I didn't want to put an end to it.
Yeah, and this book is, of course, as soon as it comes out, it's dated, anything written on Google. But you talk about Larry Page not being, your final paragraph, Larry Page certainly won't be a conventional CEO. Google's future, you say, will continue to court the unexpected and maybe the impossible. So let's think 5 or 10 years down the line. Imagine some unexpected things that might come out of Google and perhaps some impossible ones.
I watch very closely what Google does in broadband. One thing that I found interesting in researching the book was when Google participated in the Spectrum auction.
Which is an excellent chapter in the book, and the Android chapter as well.
Well, thank you. They announced, it was clear to everyone that they were in it to draw in Verizon, because this particular auction wouldn't be official unless there was an official bidder, and the rules of this auction were favorable to Google as to how the spectrum would be used. It had to be open to a certain degree. Yet, when Google accomplished what it wanted to, they put in an official bid, and then to their relief, supposedly, Verizon topped them. Larry suggested, well, maybe we should keep going. And he was convinced that, no, let's stick to what we wanted to do, and we got what we wanted, and let's pull back here. But I wouldn't be surprised if the next Spectrum auction, Google was actually bidding on it.
I thought your chapter on Android was particularly interesting in that, I don't know if you were the first person to reveal how the whole idea of buying Android was Larry's.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, I wasn't the first one then. Actually, Dan Roth wrote a really good story for Wired a few years ago talking about that. But what's fascinating about Android is the way that Google pushed forward without worrying about who they would offend. At one point, Google was considering a product, it was Grand Central, and someone brought up that, boy, we're going to offend the phone companies here. And they said, well, who cares? They hate us already. And that's the way Larry...
Well, Verizon doesn't hate them as much.
Not as much now, right. But that's the way Larry thinks. When Larry wants to go into an area, he doesn't worry about who's there, whether that person is his friend, whether that company would be so charged up by Google's entry that they would mobilize against it. In this case, they wound up alienating a company that seemed to be their natural ally in ruling the world, which was Apple.
What's the real goal, though, of Google and Android? Is it to become a mobile company, or is it to simply sell more search engine advertising on mobile?
Well, you can't separate them. You can't. Every company has to be a mobile company now, and it's a foregone.
But not every company needs to control the platform.
Well, if search and search ads and locations in your future, you have to have your hand in that platform there. More searches, and Google knows this, at a certain point, probably not terribly distant future, more searches will be done with mobile devices, and they will on laptops and desktop computers. And if Google doesn't have their search engine showing up there, it's not going to survive. So it was a big paradigm shift that Google had to be ready for. It's a paradigm shift. You look back at the history of companies, Lotus, is a great example. Some people probably don't even remember what Lotus was, but at one time, people thought this was going to be the dominant software company. They had a spreadsheet and they had a program. They were the applications leader, but they didn't adapt when the paradigm shift came to the visual interface, the graphical user interface, and that killed them.
If the search engine business died, though, the advertising sales around search suddenly went away for some bizarre reason, could Google or can Google survive as a company?
Well, it would be a very different company, but I think the brilliance of the advertising system is that it has to survive because it's such a perfect system. It's the only advertising system really, that I know of on the internet where the users actually like and want the ads. I don't think you see that with display advertising. I don't think Facebook has managed to come up with an equivalent. If people had the choice of Facebook with ads or without ads, I think overwhelmingly they would say without ads. But Google regularly tests its users. It shows a certain percentage, the search results without ads, and they don't search as much.
Finally, and you can be as speculative, or you have to be as speculative as you can here, name me a couple of areas where you think Google could, in the long run, do the impossible.
I think you look at artificial intelligence. This is an obsession with Larry. And it's really built into what Google does. Google is a learning machine. So basically anything that involves the processing of massive amounts of information and something, like a system that can learn from that and perform tasks and serve people more information is going to be the kind of thing that Google is going to go after and try to make happen for the first time.
So Google could build their own version of Watson?
I think that's one of the less ambitious things. You'll probably say, yeah. I mean, Google, of course. Watson, is something, a Watson-like product, and Watson is sort of a single function program to play Jeopardy. But we already know that Google wants to do the general purpose Watson there. I'm talking about things that make really more sophisticated decisions. And you look at the cars that drive themselves, that's a fairly sophisticated thing, which Google has gone a long way to mastering.
And final, should we be excited by all that?
I'm excited. Did you ever drive one of those cars? Did you be a passenger in one of those cars? It is a mind.
No, I haven't.
It's a mind-changing experience. Intellectually, a lot of people in the technology world accept the idea that, one day we're going to sit in the car and the car is going to drive itself. You're going to say, go to grandma's house, and the car is going to take over from there. But to actually believe it in your core is a big step. After you ride in one of these things and you see the thing that's taking turns and going here and going there, and you're sitting there. I was in a car and it drove in a way I wouldn't tolerate a human being driving, and the thing was in total control, and that made it from an intellectual belief to a visceral one there. So I think that's the kind of thing, the kind of shift that's possible now with our technology. And people are afraid to take on those challenges because they seem so counterintuitive. We've been baked into thinking of what we can't do. And the advantage the people who have big, hairy, audacious goals have in making these things happen is they're not polluted by can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. And as long as Google keeps saying, you say we can't do it, we know we can, we're going to see what's feasible and then go do this with this technology platform we have, not just within our company, but in the world, then I think Google's capable of being much more than a one-trick pony.